Woohoo! It looks like we may be live. I'm not sure. It might take another 60 seconds. We'll see. I'm just getting set up here. Got my whole setup. I don't do this every day. So if you can see me, if you can hear me, let me know in the chat. Aha, there we go. See me, if you can hear me, let me know. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me in the middle of a random Wednesday. Hi, Eric. Nice to hear from you. Hi. Boom. Perfect. So excited. Glad people can see me. Glad people can hear me. Let me just take 1 second to pull up. I'm going to hit share my screen. It's going to look crazy for a second. I know. And then we'll pull up this. Woohoo. Yay. Huzzah. Perfect. All right. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me noon on a Wednesday to learn how to diagnose the appliances in your RV. Hi, Michael from Virginia. Hi, Joe. Hi, Jeff. So glad you guys could all make it here. If you see a different Emily in the chat, that's also me. I'm also watching on my phone to be able to see the chat and my slides all at the same time. Oh my God, we have someone from Yuma. Hello, welcome everybody. Hi, this is also Emily. So boom, if you see that Emily Kistler, that's also me. That's me answering questions in the chat. I'll also be keeping an eye on and answering them here. But thank you so much for coming in, guys. Today we're going to be walking through how to diagnose any appliance in your RV. While we're just giving a couple seconds for people to get in and get themselves situated, let me know in the chat, where are you from? What kind of RVer are you? The more that I have met RVers out in real life and helped people fix RVs, the more I realize there's a huge spectrum of RVers out there and how people like to RV. Do I have any full-timers in the chat today? And do I have any weekend warriors? Those tend to be like two big categories that we split people off of just at the beginning. Let's see, Eric's from Vancouver. Ooh, and a 92 Class C. I haven't seen enough Class Cs out there. I've been working on a whole lot of really big Class A's and then a lot of small Class B's. The C's are not getting enough love. Ooh, Michael's a leisure RVer. You know, getting into that full-time life is a big leap. But I love my weekend warriors. That's me. I live in a sticks and bricks house, and I just get out in my RV on the weekends when I can. Oh, we've got at least one full-timer from Oklahoma. Good to see you. Oh, wow, we've got a really great diversity of people in here. This is awesome. So before we jump into the meat and potatoes of today, I just wanted to answer the question right off at the top. Who the heck is this woman? I get this comment all the time on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. People are like, who the heck is this woman? She looks like she's 12. She's got half her head shaved. Who is she to tell me what to do in my RV? Well, if you don't know me, hi, hello. My name is Emily. I am a certified mobile RV repair tech based in Las Vegas, and I run the one-woman business called RV Repair Woman. What the heck does all of that mean? I drive around day to day in my beat up C2500 service body truck, helping people fix their RVs. So I've touched everything in an RV, from the air conditioner to the black tanks, everything in between, you name it. I probably touched it at least once and helped somebody with it. Oh, we got more people coming in. We got someone from Arizona. Love to see it. We got someone with a 2020 Montana, relatively new. Love to see it. And we got an RVer from Texas. There we go. What a great crowd we got today. Before I was fixing RVs, I actually worked behind the scenes in the live entertainment industry here in Las Vegas. So I like to say the last big girl job that I had before I left to go work on RVs was building illusions for magicians. And so I actually did electrical work on a much larger scale before I moved on to doing RV electrical. So every now and again, people in the comments are like, how do you know all this electrical knowledge? I've been doing it for about a decade before I then started this business, doing electrical specifically for RVs. It always made me laugh. I actually went to school for about a month and a half to specifically learn how to do electrical and stuff on RVs. And while I was there, people would be like, oh, you don't want to work on this kind of RV. That's the weirdest thing you'll ever work on. Or you don't want to work on an Airstream. That's the weirdest thing you'll ever work on. And I always like to tell people like, hey, once you've built a table to saw a lady in half, like nothing seems weird anymore. Fixing a water heater, walk in the park. Sawing a lady in half, be happy if I never have to do that again. But enough about me. I just wanted to give a little bit of an intro right at the top. What are you going to learn today? Well, first, we're just going to go over real quick why calling a tech isn't always maybe the first option that you want to take. That's right. I'm one of the very few techs on the internet that's going to tell you why not to call me. And then we're going to go over my simple 4-step framework that I use when I am diagnosing electrical problems in RVs. We're then going to look at the beginnings of how to use that framework to begin solving a Suburban water heater. And then at the end, I'll talk a little bit about if you want to learn more or dive into this a little deeper, what you can do and how you can go about that. If that all sounds interesting to you, and if we still got people following along, be sure to stick with me all the way to the end. If you stick to the end, I'll give you a link to a resource that's going to make diagnosing your tanked water heater truly as easy as like 1, 2, 3. Doesn't matter if you have a Suburban, an Atwood, a Dometic, as long as there's a tanked water heater, I gotcha. So stick around to the end for that. And before we dive in too deep, just a little quick reminder. I know it's been a long time since a lot of us have been in school, but go ahead, if you're not watching this on a phone, go ahead and put the phone on Do Not Disturb, grab a notebook, grab a pencil. We're going to be cranking through a good bit amount of information today, and you're not going to want to miss it. So put those distractions aside. Let's get ready to learn about some RVing. Okay, something stops working in your RV. What are you going to do? Who are you going to call? I know for most people, their first instinct is to pick up the phone and call a tech. So let's go over really quickly why that may not want to be the first option that you go for every time. First of all, it is expensive. It can get really costly really quickly. Throw down in the chat if you got a story about repair that you thought would be super quick and easy and all of a sudden was way more expensive than you expected. I think every RVer I know has that story. The big box RV store near me, I jokingly call them Housing Planet, but anyone who's been RVing for a good amount of time will know, I'm just double checking that I still got everybody. Yeah. People who've been RVing for a good amount of time, you guys know what store I'm referencing. They are currently charging almost $500 minimum for mobile work. Doesn't matter how quick, how small the problem, you're paying $500. And I've had people ask like, hey, where are you getting that number? They are charging almost $250 per hour, and they have a 2-hour minimum. And that 2 hours starts when they leave their shop. So if you are, let's say, like 30 minutes away from the closest Housing Planet, you are actually paying for an hour of drive time, the 30 minutes it takes them to drive to you and the 30 minutes it takes for them to drive back. So you're paying for 2 hours, but you're only actually getting 1 hour of them fixing your problem for that $500. And it doesn't matter if they come in and it takes them the full hour to solve it, or they come in and it's just a fuse and they change it out real quick, you're still paying $500. That is specifically for mobile work. And if you didn't know, in the industry in general, we're going to paint with a big swath here, mobile work is almost always going to cost more and be more expensive than bringing your RV into a shop. okay? As a mobile tech, I'll let you know, we just are a little bit more expensive. This is in large part because it's tricky and difficult to take everything that you would need in a shop to fix an RV, get it on a truck, drive it out to people. And it's also just taking that drive time is taking up time that I could be fixing somebody else's RV. So there's a reason that people or mobile techs have you pay for that drive time. But it does mean that asking for a mobile work or calling a mobile tech is usually going to be more expensive than bringing your RV into a shop. It's considered like a premium service. Is everybody following along? Everybody got that? Let me just hit refresh on here just to make sure I got everybody in the chat. Perfect. Okay. So maybe you're like, I don't want to have to pay for mobile work. I don't want to pay the premium. I could just take my RV into a shop. Well, shop wait times, especially as we get deeper into the season, get closer to the summer, get very long, very quick. I've seen shop times take weeks, if not months, just to get your RV into the shop. And that's before they even buy parts, wait for the parts to come in, wait to find somebody to put those parts in for you. Like, shops take so long sometimes. And I cannot tell you how many stories I've heard of customers bringing their RV into a shop, waiting that full wait time, getting their RV back, and only like half the things that they wanted fixed were addressed. They're like, I just wanted my RV to work, dang it. Anybody have a story like that? Let me know in the chat. And this one was a shocker to me when I first started meeting shop techs. This is going to be like painting with a really broad brush here, but in a lot of shops, especially ones that do a lot of warranty and insurance work, they are not incentivized in the way that they are paid to solve problems. They get paid to replace units. This was crazy to me when I first learned about it. My jaw was on the floor. When I went to school, I was taught to work systematically through the appliance, step by step. Go through spot 1, then spot 2, then spot 3, and systematically work through until we find what the problem is. And it's only if you get through the entire checklist and the unit isn't working that you then condemn that unit. This is so we aren't replacing units that just had something small wrong with them. And so we know for sure that the unit's bad before we replace it. And the first time that I went to a continuous education class where I was going to like learn about new technology in the field, and I wanted to be like, learn about the new stuff coming out. And the instructor got to the point in the class where they were talking about that step-by-step process for this new air conditioner we were learning about. And the guys behind me, who were from one of the big box RV stores, started like laughing under their breath. I could hear them. And I eventually just turned around and I was like, I want in on the joke. And they were like, we will never do this. We are not paid to do this. Our shop doesn't want us doing this. Like, a lot of shops do not incentivize their techs to take the time to diagnose what's wrong with an appliance. As soon as something's wrong, they're just ripping it out and putting in a new one. It makes the shop more money, and unfortunately, that often costs the customer more. Again, this is painting with a huge swath, but I see this a lot more with shops than I do with mobile techs, unfortunately. And then finally, just a little shout out to my women out there. I know I've seen a couple of you here in the chat. I don't want to speak for like all of womankind, but I'll at least speak for me and a lot of the female customers that I've interacted with. I know a lot of us women put off calling for help for things when we need it because we're worried someone's going to come into our space and start talking down to us. If that describes you in any way, let me know in the chat, because I cannot tell you how many customers I've spoken to that have felt like this. I've put off calling for help in my house when I've needed it. We have had a bathroom that we have not been able to use for like 2 months, and we finally called a plumber like last week to get it fixed because we were just nervous that they were going to come in and be like, you've been using this bathroom wrong the whole time or something. And I can't tell you how many customers that I have gone to who, when I've shown up and not been that vibe, they've just been really relieved. And so, my ladies out there, I just want you to feel seen. I want you to feel heard. I know we sometimes put off calling for help when things stop working because we're nervous about this. And this is one of the many reasons I'm so passionate about teaching people about how to fix things in their RV. I want to take that lack of confidence that some people feel like in their own rig and in their own space. And I want people to feel like really emboldened. Like, this is my space. I know what to do when something goes wrong. I've got this. And I want to do that for every RVer out there. And I especially want to do that for my fellow female RVers out there. There we go. I've got people in the chat being like, I would rather get dirty than call a tech. That's somebody after my own heart. The last shop that I worked at before I started my own business, I was notorious for somehow being the dirtiest person in the shop. Like, it was, and partially because I was also the painter, but at the end of the day, like, our one computer person and like everyone else would be like so crisp and clean. And then I would somehow just be covered in like paint from head to toe. That was like the thing I was known for at the shop, on top of like being good at my job. Always want to throw that out there. So calling a tech, it can be expensive. It can be time consuming. It can be unreliable at times. You don't know what kind of tech you're getting. You don't know if there's someone that's like actually going to take the time to like really figure out what's wrong and is just going to rip it out and replace it. And sometimes it can really take a drain on your confidence. So the next time that something stops working in your RV, I want you to just maybe take a second, see maybe can I solve this problem on my own? That's why I put out so much content on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, is to get people to feel like maybe they don't need to pick up that phone and maybe they can handle this, okay? So the next time something stops working in your RV, instead of picking up the phone immediately, I want you to think OMG P. I try to make this some sort of initialism that people could remember. This is something to write down. OMG P. It's going to stick in your head. This stands for AC or DC, multimeter, ground, path. Okay? So when something goes wrong in your RV, you're going to ask yourself, is this an AC appliance or a DC appliance? You're then going to whip out your multimeter. I feel like Martha Stewart. Here's one I prepared earlier. You're going to whip out your multimeter and you're going to set it to either AC volts or DC volts. You're then going to find your ground and put your black probe on that ground. And then you're going to take your red probe and you're just going to follow the path of electricity and see where it stops. That makes sense, an overview to everybody? Let me know. There we go. I see you, Eric. You'd rather fix things yourself. I feel you. I'm the exact same way. So that is the 4-step framework in overview. Now let's dive in a little bit deeper into what this looks like. So step 1, the O of our OMG P plan, is AC or DC. When something goes wrong in your RV, I want you to ask yourself, is this an AC appliance or a DC appliance? And then you're going to, when we talk about AC or DC, we're talking about voltage, okay? This is one of the settings on your multimeter, the voltage setting. It's also the setting that tells us where's the beef, okay? Anyone remember those fast food commercials? Oh my God, I'm totally blanking. I think it was Arby's. Was it Arby's or Wendy's? Who had where's the beef? But yes, this is the setting that's going to help you know where is the electricity. Later, when we get to the pathway, we're just going to follow the path of electricity and we're going to see where it stops. We're going to see if power goes into something and we're going to see if power comes out of something. And the voltage test is just the test that tells us, is electricity here or is it not? Okay? That's all the voltage test is telling you. Where is the electricity? It was Wendy's. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so that's the voltage test in overview. It's just going to be the test that we use to figure out where's the electricity. We also know, anyone who's spent time in an RV knows that we have 2 types of electricity in our RV, okay? Even if you're like Emily, I've never thought of this before. You know this in your bones, okay? You just don't know that you know it yet. There are things in your RV that only work when you're plugged in, okay? You know that. And there are some things in your RV that still work even when you're boondocking and you're not plugged in, okay? The things that only work when you're plugged in are our AC appliances. You're plugging in order to get AC power. AC power, usually our big beefy power. That's why we're plugging in to get it. Things that work even when you're not plugged in are powered by your batteries, okay? And your batteries supply DC power. Does that make sense to everybody? Let me know in the chat if you're lost at all. Good, okay, people seem like they're following. So our AC appliances, the things that only work when they are plugged in, are gonna be things like our air conditioner, our microwave, our outlets, our fridge when we're on the electric setting, and our water heater when we're on the electric setting. That makes sense? Those are our AC appliances. Our DC appliances are going to be things like our lights, our slides, our leveling jacks. Our propane appliances all have circuit boards in them that run off of DC power, and our fart fans. Okay, that fan in your bathroom that you turn on when you've been in there too long and it starts to smell, that fan runs off of DC power. There we go. I see you, Celtic or Celtic. You only boondock. Then when you are boondocking, you either need to turn on your generator in order to get your AC appliances to work, or you have solar and an inverter. Does that make sense? So the other way, I wasn't going to dive into this too deep unless people got lost, but if you're a boondocker, the only way that you can get AC power while boondocking is either through a generator or through an inverter on your solar setup. Okay, so those are the other ways you could get AC power while boondocking. But you can only get those things to work if you run the Jenny or if you have that inverter. That makes sense? So these are what our AC appliances are. These are what our DC appliances are. We said that we were going to work today on a Suburban water heater, and we're specifically going to be working on the gas side. There we go. We got people who are following us. I love to see it. If we are working on a Suburban water heater and the gas side, let me know in the chat, is this an AC appliance or a DC appliance? I'm going to take a drink of water just to give time for people to answer. There we go. I got people coming in. If you're on the Suburban water heater and you're on the gas side, that's going to be a DC appliance. Great answer. I see you. Michael's got it. Eric's got it. James, you're saying both. It would be an AC appliance if we were on the electric side. But because we're on the gas side, it's going to be just the DC side. Awesome. So, like we talked about, our AC appliances, air conditioner, microwave, outlets, fridge when we're on auto, water heater if we're on electric. DC side is going to be lights, slides, leveling jacks, our water heater if we're on gas, if we're on the propane side, and then those fart fans. Everybody got that? Everyone following? Okay, so this is going to be a DC voltage or a DC volts appliance. Let's see, I got one person asking, what's gas side mean? So if you have a water heater that only turns on and off, doesn't have any settings, then that is a gas-only water heater. If you have a water heater that has settings, you can change it to either gas or electric, then the gas side or the gas setting will be DC volts, and the electric side will be AC volts. Does that make more sense? All right, I think we got people following along. So I know that this could be a little confusing for some people. I know some people got a little lost. That's okay. This is why whenever I put out guides, courses, classes, anything, I always try to put a graphic somewhere giving you a little reminder of whether or not this is a DC appliance or an AC appliance. Okay, I have so many PDF guides out there. People love these things because they're so easy to follow. And that's because I am constantly reminding people they're on the DC side of things or on the AC side of things. If this is a new concept for you, start looking around your RV and you'll start really realizing like, oh, this works when I'm not plugged in. This only works when I'm plugged in. And that'll really help you understand this is an AC appliance versus a DC appliance. But once we've answered that question, which we did for our Suburban water heater, then we're going to pull out our multimeter. Again, feel like Martha Stewart. And we're going to set our meter to either AC volts or DC volts. Today, we're going to go for DC volts because we're looking at the gas side of a Suburban water heater. So whenever I talk about multimeters, people ask me, Emily, what multimeter should I get? And I usually give two sort of broad recommendations. If you're brand new to this, I sometimes just say, hey, go get whatever multimeter you can get your hands on. Just head down to Harbor Freight. This guy was like $5. This guy was like $10. This is in most people's budgets. These are super cheap, super easy. They've got all the basic settings on them that can get you through like diagnosing your first RV problem. They're not very sophisticated, but they can at least get you through your first couple of RV problems. And anyone can use these. These are not complicated. You know what else is not complicated? My other recommendation. So if you're not someone who wants to get just like the cheapest thing on the market, then I usually point people towards the Klein CL800. I am not like sponsored by Klein. Klein has never given me any money. This has just been like my pride and joy, the meter I've always used from the beginning of time. It sort of feels like my right hand at this point. It's got all the things you need, none of the stuff you don't. He comes in usually at around $100, depending on where you buy him from. Yeah, once people get into Klein tools, they love Klein tools, okay? And that's speaking to someone, again, never taken any money from Klein or gotten any free merch from Klein. I wish someday we'll get that Klein sponsorship. But the other benefit of the Klein CL800 is it's the multimeter that I use. So you'll see it in the same pictures of all my guides, my videos, my YouTube tutorials. It's all using this meter. So it's very easy to follow along with. If you want to stay in the RV repairwoman universe, it can be easy if you have the same meter that I do. But today, we're going to talk about how to set this meter to DC volts, whether you have the cheapest version or you've got the CL800. If you have just one of the cheapest meters on the planet, I don't care if it's this one, this guy, some other cheapo meter, it's going to have a setting on here that says DCV somewhere, like you can see on the upper left-hand corner there. And that stands for DC volts, as you could expect. Once you start looking, you're going to see that in that DCV section, it's got a lot of different settings, and you're going to get a little overwhelmed. You're like, which of these do I need to pick? Super simple. Remind me again, people in the chat who are paying attention, where does our DC voltage come from? We just talked about it. Again, I'll take a sip just to give people a chance to answer. Boom, the batteries. Good job, C. Good job, Michael. Batteries. Does anybody know the voltage we should expect to see from our batteries, really roughly? Russell's got it, 12 volts. So when we're on the DC side of things, we're expecting to see a number in the realm of 12. So if you have one of these cheapo meters, you're going to set it to the 20 setting because that is the closest number it has to 12, okay? These guys aren't very sophisticated, so you need to tell it roughly what range of voltage you expect to see. So again, we'll set this guy to 20. It's the closest number it has to 12. If you have a fancier meter like the Klein or a Fluke or any of these that have like a dial, these guys are auto ranging. So you don't need to tell it what range, you just need to tell it you're looking for DC volts. In order to do that, you're just going to turn the dial to the V setting, and then you're going to press this orange button here, and that'll switch you over from AC volts to DC volts. If you look where my arrow is pointing on the right-hand side, you'll see there's a straight line there that tells you you're on DC volts. If you were to see a squiggly line there, that would tell you you're on AC volts, and you just need to hit that orange button again to get you to DC. Okay? So that's how we set up our meter, depending on whether or not you got a cheapo one or a fancier one. That's how you set it to DC volts. Is that making sense to everybody? There we go. I love seeing people, everyone's looking at like 12, 12.3, 13.6 when charging. I see you, Jeff. 13 plus. So if you're lost, the people in the chat that are saying 13 is if your batteries are being charged. Don't get too confused. We charge batteries at a higher voltage than they like to sit at. So that way they have somewhere to go to so they can charge all the way up to full. When we go looking for that 12 volts later, I'll accept any number between like, I'll say 10 and a half to 14, which I know is a pretty big range, but anywhere in between there, we'll say we see 12 volts. That's close enough to 12 that we're happy with what we're seeing. And if you seem a little lost, it's okay. We're going to go over that again in just a minute. But good answers, people. Love to see it. All right. If just looking at these meters gave you PTSD flashbacks to your mean high school physics teacher, do not worry. Today, you just need to concentrate on the DC voltage test, okay? That voltage test, the DC one, can get you through like half of all the things you would want to test in your RV. Once you upgrade from there to also knowing the AC voltage test, you can test like 80% of the stuff in your RV. Like between the two voltage tests, that is like the go-to tests for techs when we're testing things, okay? If you want to dive in deeper and learn about all the other settings on your multimeter, whether it be a cheapo one or a fancier one, just know that like that is the first thing I go over whenever I do like a course or an online thing that's a little bit longer. The first thing we go over is usually my $5,000 challenge, which is like my pride and joy. The $5,000 challenge is like a 5-day long challenge that has a 15-minute video each day, super easy, super short to digest. And in those, we go over the 5 major settings on your meter that you'd use. So DC volts, AC volts, continuity, resistance, amperage. And for each of those tests, I give you 2 of the most common calls that I get as a tech that use those tests. Super cool. So by the end, you'll know 10 of the most common calls that I get as a tech. And if we think about not having to call a big box RV store for each of those calls, then by the end, you'll know how to save $5,000 in your RV. This is why it's sort of like my pride and joy. I really love that week. But yeah, that's the first week of like any program that I put out. We go through the $5,000 challenge and make sure everyone feels confident with their multimeter. And I love that week. It's probably my favorite, other than like air conditioners, because I love air conditioners. But getting people the basics of electricity is awesome because I just love seeing that like fear and misunderstanding just like melt away. Super cool. But today, we're just going to concentrate on the DC voltage test. You don't need to worry about any of the other tests on your meter. DC volt is going to get you through today. And if you don't have a meter, I'm really hoping by the end of just like our little time here today, this little hour together, you're going to maybe feel confident enough that you're going to want to go get your own meter. So you have something go wrong in your RV. You've asked yourself, is this an AC appliance or a DC appliance? You've pulled out your multimeter. You've set it to the right voltage setting. Now all you need to do is find the ground for whatever appliance that we're looking at. What is a ground? Well, we know that our multimeter comes with 2 probes. One's usually black and one's usually red. We're going to take our black probe and put it on what we call the ground, so we have a common place to measure off of. If you want a metaphor for this, think about trying to measure my height. We would want to measure from a consistent place. from the ground. So if we want to measure like from the ground to the top of my head, or from the ground to my waist, or from the ground to my knee, while the red probe would move around, basically what we were measuring would move around, we would keep the black probe, or the place we are measuring from, consistent. Does that make sense to people? I just want to make sure I don't lose anybody. Oh, somebody bought the Klein CL800 because of my videos. Oh, that's amazing. That's the kind of influence I want to be. More people with multimeters in their hands. But is this height metaphor making sense to people? We don't want to be moving the black probe all around. We want that one to stay consistent. And then we want our red probe to be the one that moves around so we get a reading from the black meter. Okay? What this looks like when we are testing our Suburban water heater, the whole back plate of the water heater can act as our ground. So you're literally just going to take that black probe and touch the back plate of the water heater, and you're good to go. You're then going to take the red probe and point it around on different parts of the water heater to see where the electricity is. That makes sense? Yeah. Kenny boy, I love that. The DC ground can be your negative side. You can think of those as the same when it comes to the DC side of things. And I love that metaphor. The best way to remember, black for soil and red for fire. So yeah, great metaphor. The black is going to be our ground or soil, and our red probe is going to be the hot probe, the one that's actually moving around and looking for power. Great metaphor, guys. Thanks for being engaged today. I love it. These things are so much more harder when people aren't like talking back and forth. So I love to see people are engaged. If you're like, Emily, I'm not looking at a Suburban water heater. I'm looking at a furnace or my fridge. How do I know where the ground is if you're not there to tell me? Take a look around the appliance. Look for a place where a whole bunch of wires are all heading to a screw that seems to be screwed just randomly into the appliance. That is your ground, especially if a lot of those wires are black or green. That guy is most likely your ground. This picture is actually from a Dometic water heater. And so you see all these green wires heading to a screw. You would know that that's going to be your ground, and that's where you're going to park your black probe for the rest of testing. Let me check. I see I got questions coming in. So which is hot, white, or black? Same rule? If I see you, Michael. For people that are confused already, ignore for a second. Michael, if you have just black and white wires, then oh God, I screw this up and I have to look it up all the time. In that case, the black is hot and the white is negative. I believe off the top of my head. Boom, but it seems like most people are following me along. There you go, Michael. Thank you for backing me up on that one. That's the one that always gets me. I'm like, why would we do black and white? Why couldn't we stick to the normal colors? But I know that this can be confusing for some people, which is, again, why when you watch my tutorials or you follow any of my PDF guides, you know, one of the first things we do is make sure that we know where our known good ground is, and then we pretty much stick to that bad boy for the whole rest of testing. That makes sense? So we're almost through this. You can see that basically everything else is just housekeeping. We're just making sure we're ready to go. And then finally, our P of the OMG P method is to just follow the path of the electricity and see where it stops. I sometimes also call this my in-out method. Okay, if you only take away one sentence from this hour or so we spend together, have it be that if electricity goes into something and doesn't come out of that something, then that part is most likely our problem. Okay, I repeat it once again, just to make sure everyone got it. If power goes in but doesn't come out, then that part is most likely your problem. So we're just going to follow the path of electricity. We're going to go from point A to point B to point C. And if at any point power goes into something but doesn't come out, then that part is most likely our problem. You're going to hear me say that like 7 more times. So I usually explain this with my Bob analogy. This usually seems to stick with people, and like this is where it clicks. Think of Bob, the happy little electron, living his best life, going on a journey to see his grandma. Bob is going to go over a mountain and through the woods to grandmother's house. Okay? Bob's crushing it. Bob's having a great life. But let's say instead that Bob, for whatever reason, went over the mountain and then went into the woods, but didn't come out. Then we would know that if we wanted Bob to finish his journey, that the woods is our problem, okay? We don't need to go looking for Bob in the mountains or fix anything about the mountains, and we don't need to go to grandma's house and fix anything about grandma's house. If we want Bob to complete his journey, we need to go to the woods, and we either need to make the woods easier to go through, or we need to replace the woods entirely. Okay? Here's what this looks like in a more electrical context. So let's say in this case, Bob's journey is that he needs to go out of a battery, through a fuse, through a thermostat, through a control box, and head back to the battery. Okay? But let's say we were following Bob along, and Bob made it out of the battery, through the fuse, and went into the thermostat, but didn't come out. Then we would know that the thermostat is most likely our problem. We don't need to change out that fuse. We know Bob made it through the fuse. And we don't even need to go test the control box because Bob never even made it to the control box. So we would either fix whatever stopped him in the thermostat, or we would switch out the thermostat. And then Bob could continue his journey. Does that make sense to everybody? Let me know in the chat if anyone's lost. This is usually, this is the big concept when it comes to diagnosing things in your RV. All we got to do is follow Bob on his journey and see where he stops. The only thing that makes this a little more tricky is that the map of where Bob is going doesn't always look this cute. Usually it looks something more like this. And this is where a lot of people get a little overwhelmed. Don't get overwhelmed. Stick with me. Bob's journey, whenever you look at a wiring diagram, is just going to start somewhere where it says in or plus. There's usually the two indicators that that's the start of the journey. And then the end of Bob's journey is going to be anywhere where you see this little 3-line icon. Okay? So in means we're beginning. This 3-line icon is one of the many exits Bob can take on his journey. So we just need to make sure that Bob makes it to each of these exit points. Okay? And I've made this wiring diagram as simple and as easy to read as I possibly could. She's color-coded, okay? So each of these wires or each of these lines is the color of the wire that you would expect to see when you're diagnosing your water heater. Good, it feels like everyone's following so far. I like it, I like it. So just as a reminder, and you may be thinking to yourself, Emily, I don't know what order Bob's supposed to be in. Like when it was in a circle, it seemed really obvious. Like he was going to go here, then here, then here. But now that it's laid out like a wiring diagram, I'm not sure. That's why I also gave it numbers. So you'll see, here's the numbers popping in and out. The numbers are going to tell you the order of where Bob's supposed to go. So Bob's first supposed to go to this part called the ECO or the T-stat. That's where that little 1 is. He's then going to go into the circuit board on that red wire. You then should see him on that brown wire where it says 3. And then he's going to go out on the igniter in the lower right-hand corner and out to the gas relays where you see it says 5. Okay? Super simple. You can follow this. And again, this is the wiring diagram for if you have a Suburban water heater. Basically, if your water heater has a silver back, you have a Suburban. And this wiring diagram is for the gas side of that water heater. Whew, excuse me. But I also have wiring diagrams for the electric side of a Suburban water heater. I also have them for the gas-only Atwood and Dometic water heaters. And I have them for the Atwood and Dometic gas and electric water heaters. So I told you, if no matter what type of tanked water heater you have, I had a resource for you that was going to make this super easy. And at the end of this whole thing, I'll give you a link to where you can get all of those wiring diagrams, so that way you can diagnose your water heater as easy as 1, 2, 3. But let's see how to use these and how to put them into action. So let's see how to test the first part of the Suburban water heater using our DC voltage test. So Bob is just going to come down this red wire and head into the ECO or T-stat. Okay, what's this look like in real life? The ECO and T-stat is just hiding in this black box. So you're just going to take those 2 screws, unscrew them, that black box will pop off, and underneath, boom, there's your ECO and T-stat bundle. The one on the right is for the gas side of your water heater. If you have one on the left, it would be for the electric side. But we know that we're doing the one on the right, not only because it's for the gas side, but also because that's where the red wires are going. And we remember from our wiring diagram that those wires should be red. There you go, Bob. So in order to test whether or not power has made it into this part of our water heater, you're just going to set your meter to DC volts, just like we talked about. Then you're going to take your black probe, put it on the back of the water heater, just like we talked about. And you take your red probe and put it on the top of this ECO T-stat bundle. And you should see something in the realm of 12 volts. Like we talked about earlier, when we say realm of 12 volts, I will take anything between 10.5 all the way up to 14.5 volts. It's a pretty big range. That's because a lot of things can happen in life. Depends on what type of batteries you have, whether or not they're currently charging, things like that. But for the most part, anything between 10.5 and 14.5, we'll say we're seeing the correct voltage. If you do not see 12 volts going to this first step of the water heater, then we can be pretty confident that the water heater is not our problem. Our problem is upstream. We're going to go check things like our fuses at our fuse panel or our batteries or something that happens before the water heater. We don't need to go test the circuit board or the gas valves or the igniter because power is not even making it to step 1. Does that make sense? This is how we can avoid just throwing parts at problems and hoping that it'll solve it. We don't need to start throwing parts. The water heater is not even the problem. Does that make sense to people? Let me know in the chat. If power did make it to step 1, then the next place we should see power is coming out of this ECO T-stat bundle. So we'd keep our black probe on the face of the water heater, and then we take our red probe and just move it to the bottom of this ECO T-stat bundle. And we should still see something in the realm of 12 volts. If we see 12 volts, this part's all good to go. We can continue on our journey. If we do not see 12 volts, that means that power made it into this part, but it didn't come out, and therefore, this part is our problem. It's that simple, guys. Boom, it seems like people are following. I love to see it. But that is basically the steps that you would take to diagnose almost any part in your water heater or any appliance in your RV for that matter. You're just going to follow through step 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and see, does power make it into this part? Does power go out of this part? If power goes in but doesn't come out, then that part is most likely our problem. Okay? Super simple. You would do the same thing to test your circuit board. You would see if power went into the circuit board and see if power came out of the circuit board. If power went in but didn't come out, the circuit board would be your problem. This is how the voltage test can solve or help you diagnose 80% of problems in your RV. You're just going to decide if it's AC volts or DC volts, set your multimeter, put your black probe on ground, and then look to see where power goes in and out. That's 80% of troubleshooting when it comes to electrical problems in RVs. The other 20% is where those other settings on your multimeter come in. So we would use your amperage test, for instance, to see how hard things are working in your RV and make sure they aren't working harder than we would expect. We would use the resistance test to test things like the heating element in your water heater or in your fridge. We use continuity to test things like fuses and to double check our work. And if you have a fancier meter like this one, you could use the capacitance test specifically to test capacitors. But for the most part, those other tests are for more niche scenarios and to be able to double check our work that we initially thought with the voltage test. So at this point, Emily's going to take a sip of water. You may be thinking to yourself, okay, Emily, I think I know how to do this, at least to get me started with the Suburban water heater, but you said that I could use this knowledge to solve any appliance in my RV. How does that work? Well, you've got two options. Option number one, start going on a scavenger hunt around your RV. Once you start looking for wiring diagrams, you are going to find these things everywhere. This was actually a picture taken on the side of a Suburban water heater. If you look really closely at this picture, you'll see that in that part in the middle, on the right of it, it says T-stat. Does that sound familiar? You'll also look right next to it is a part that says, I know there's a bit of a glare, so it's hard to read, but it says something like module 3D or 8D or something like that. That's your circuit board. This whole picture is the same as this picture. I've just made mine color-coded, spread it out so it's a little easier to see, and I've got a version with numbers on it. That's all I did. I just took the same information and just made it a little easier to read. But that information is there for you on the side of your water heater. Remember when we talked about that control box when I showed this picture earlier? That control box is from a Coleman Mach air conditioner. If you were to open up that control box, boom, wiring diagram waiting for you there. Open up the access panel for your fridge. What do you see? Boom, a wiring diagram waiting for you there. These wiring diagrams aren't as cute and color-coded as the ones that I made, but they're there. Totally for free. They just put them there so that way when texts come through, we have something to reference if we don't have this information memorized in our heads. I will say, sticking to option one, if you are brand spanking new to this, never picked up a multimeter before, you've never done electrical shooting, I would stick to DC appliances until you've done a couple of iterations. Maybe you just walk through the power in your water heater first before you start touching the AC appliances, okay? The power on the DC side, much lower. And so much less likely to shock yourself or hurt the appliance. It's when we start touching the AC side of things, that's when we get the bigger chance of shocks or the bigger chance of hurting the appliance. Still relatively simple, still relatively straightforward. I've talked people through the AC side of things so many times, but if it is your first time and you're brand spanking new, like I said, maybe play around with the DC side of things for a while, build up your confidence, and then start looking at the AC side, okay? If you're like, Emily, I don't know if I could follow those wiring diagrams without somebody walking me through it, and I don't like the fact that they're not as cute as yours, that is where we come into option two. I'm just going to take a brief minute just to pitch a program that I have starting next week if you're interested. It's called RV Academy. I'm putting on a live version of it starting next week. It's going to be 5 weeks long, and we're going to be meeting every Friday at noon, basically like this. Noon Pacific Standard Time, so Las Vegas time. And I'm going to walk through all of the major appliances in your RV step by step and show you how to diagnose every single part of each of those appliances. So for those 5 weeks, week 1 will be electricity basics. That's when we're going to go over that $5,000 challenge. And we're going to make sure that you feel super confident with your multimeter. And then after that, each week, we're going to concentrate on a specific appliance. So week 1 is going to be tanked water heaters. We'll go all the way through both a Suburban and a Diagnose water heater, both the gas and the electric side for both. Week 2 is furnaces. You can stay nice and toasty warm in your RV all winter long. That'll be both Diagnose and Suburban. Week 4 is absorption style fridges. So those are any fridge that have both a gas and an electric side. And we will be doing both Norcold and Diagnose fridges, and both the gas and the electric for those. I know they're super finicky, so we're going to make sure that every part of your fridge is working, so that way you feel confident that you can keep your food good for your whole trip. And then finally, the last week, probably my favorite week when it comes to the appliances, air conditioners. Totally a must-have here in Las Vegas. And for air conditioners, we go over Coleman Mach and Diagnose, but I'll let you right now, that knowledge can also get you through Furrion and Advent air conditioners. You'll get access to those live replays. So even if you can't make it at noon, you can watch whenever you want. And there's also pre-recorded lessons already waiting in there because we're all adults and they just want you to be able to learn the information when you want it. So if you're like, Emily, I think I saw people had furnace problems. You're like, I want to get my furnace fixed right now and I want to be able to do it myself. Boom, that information is sitting in there waiting for you. You can watch it whenever you want. I've got the color-coded wiring diagrams for each type of appliance. They're numbered, colored, super easy to follow. And then I'll also have a private community where if you're like, Emily, I can't make those lives, or I've got a random question on a Tuesday, you can ask it in the private community and I will answer it first thing every morning. Like some people start their morning with their cup of coffee and the New York Times crossword puzzle. I start my mornings with my giant jug of water, my protein shake, and answering questions in this private community. Heck yeah, if you can't make it to the lives, there'll be replays. You can rewatch them whenever you want. You'll get a year's worth of access, so you can come back and watch whenever you need it. And you've got those pre-recorded lessons, so you've got that information so you can watch. If you need to watch it right now, it's waiting for you right there. If you had to call a tech just once in the lifetime of your RV for each of these appliances, it would add up to $2,000. And that's only if you had to call once for each appliance, which just seemed like a lot to me. Me personally, just have other things I wanted to spend that money on. So I decided to make RV Academy less than half of that. I know it's still a chunk of change for some people, but you know, we're finding the right price point. So it's coming in at $797. Doors open today. If you're interested, you can head on over to rvrepairwoman.com/live, or the link is in the description. And just for people who came today and hung out with me in this live and stuck with me through the whole thing, I'm going to do a bonus week on generator basics. I'm really excited for this. I have not put out any information online about generators yet. So this will be like the first place where I start teaching about generators. I'm super excited about it. You can also get all of my PDF guides that walk you through how to change or how to diagnose your air conditioner. This is like what I consider the most important appliance. So I've made like so many guides on diagnosing different air conditioners, and I've got all of them in there waiting for you. So that's like $120 value you just get hanging out there. But if that doesn't interest you at all, totally understand. Don't forget, just as a thank you for hanging out with me today, if you head on over to rvrepairwoman.com/wiring, I've got all those color-coded wiring diagrams for your water heater waiting for you totally for free. So go check those out at rvrepairwoman.com/wiring. But thank you so much. This has been our little presentation today, our little class. Thank you for joining me at noon on a random Wednesday. Is that what today is? Wow, do the days blur together when you're self-employed. If you have any questions, I'll be hanging out here in the chat to answer them for you. I can't answer people's specific questions. Oh, that was my multimeter yelling at me. I can't answer people's specific questions like, oh, my furnace isn't starting. Like, there's no way I could answer that via chat. But even any questions about what we talked about today or about RV Academy, let me know. I'll be hanging out here to answer them in the chat. And don't forget to head on over to rvrepairwoman.com/live if you're interested. Doors are going to close for that this Monday, which let me pull up a calendar. I should have had that pulled up before. So doors will close Monday the 12th, just so we can get everybody started at the same time. So I know sometimes you got to move some money around or figure out what you're going to do. You have until Monday at midnight to get that all figured out. But yeah, I'm just going to pull up my chat and just scroll through and answer any questions people might have. Somebody asking how you'll get into the private community. You'll get sent a link when you sign up. It's built into my website as well. So there'll be a login that'll bring you into the course itself and into the private community. That way you don't need to create like a Facebook account if you're not a Facebook person, or an Instagram account if you're not an Instagram person. It's all through my website. And that way we don't need to worry about like weird Facebook rules or anything. And I can moderate it myself. So yeah, you'll just get a login and it'll be the same login that gets you into the course. Oh, people are excited about generators. I'm so excited. Like I said, I haven't talked about generators online a ton just because they are a little bit more complicated than, let's say, just a water heater. So it's not going to be the generators bonus week, just so we're on the same page. It won't be like everything you've ever wanted to know about generators, but it'll get you through like the basics and probably get you through like 80% of most generator problems. So I'm really excited. I'm just putting that out to like a small group of people who sign up for this, just to like make sure that people understand and that people get it. But I'm really excited about that week. Oh, and people, okay, thank you so much for people being so nice. I'm always so nervous to do lives like this. Everything else you see of me online is usually pretty highly edited between my YouTube videos and reels and posts that I take like 7 tries to film. So I'm always nervous when I do these lives that you're just gonna get the more real, raw me, and maybe that's not what people are here for. But thank you so much, everyone being so nice. So yes, the actual first live will be next Friday. So not, let's see, today's Wednesday. So not 2 days from now, but a week from 2 days from now. That'll be our very first live. And that first one will be going over electricity basics. And then some people saying that they signed up for Academy last year. Those people that went through RV Academy last year, I'll be sending out links to you guys to get a discount if you want to go through again and get the live version. I don't know. I think I'll only do the generators bonus class to this new set, just so we can like dip our toes in and see how it goes before I put it out to like everybody. But if you would like to go through this live version, or you've already purchased RV Academy and just got the pre-recorded lessons and want to join in on the live version, you'll be getting a code into your inbox pretty soon. Oh, somebody asking how they know what type of water heater they have. So when it comes to tanked water heaters, there's really only 2 brands in the biz. There's Suburban and there's Dometic. Suburbans are silver in the back and Dometics are black in the back. It's actually pretty easy to tell the difference. Here, give me 2 seconds. Here's the joy of being in my office. Yeah, loud noise. Boom. I also have a really old water heater here, really old and faded. You can still tell that the back of this is black as opposed to silver. So this is a Dometic water heater. If the back was silvery and like didn't have this paint on it, then you have a Suburban. Super easy. thank you, Jeff. You're so kind. Everyone here has been so kind and so nice. I'm just doing one last scroll just to make sure that I got at least most people's questions. Yeah, somebody asked if they sign up and they're unable to make a week, they can always watch those pre-recorded lessons or watch replays of the live lessons before the lives. I'll always put out a call for questions so that way I can make sure they get answered in the lives. So if you ever have a question anytime in the 5 weeks, you can either ask them in the private chat, you can ask them in that call or in that request for questions that I'll make sure get answered during the live lesson, or you could ask them during the live lessons while you're in the chat, just like we are here. So lots of places, to get your questions answered. Oh, thank you, Patrick. You are so kind. Thank you. That actually means the world to me. I actually come from, this sounds like I'm a wizard, but I come from a line of educators. My grandma taught, my parents both taught. I actually grew up on a high school campus. My dad was head of the science department. My mom used to teach statistics, and then she also taught the shop at my high school. So she taught how to use tools and how to build props and sets. So once I learned about RVing and how to fix things in RVs, it just sort of felt like in my blood, and the way that I was like taught as a child is like, as soon as you know something, you need to pass it along, and like you need to teach it to the next person. And so whenever people say, I can be here nor there if I'm like the best tech in the world, but when people say that I'm able to explain something in a way they understand, that's like what truly fills my heart with joy. All right, I think we got at least most of people's questions. If you have any more, just put them down in the comments. Whew, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. And have a lovely Wednesday. And don't forget to sign up for our V Academy if you're interested. Ooh, I'm going to remember how to end this. Woohoo!